Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome back to the kitchen. It's December. It's cold outside. It's that time of year where we just want to make something nice and warm, and we want to hunker down, warm our bodies up, and feel really nice and full when we're done. And this is a great way to do that. And it goes along with the other hearty things we've been making for the winter time. We are going to make a classic, traditional Italian wedding soup. Really good stuff. I mean, I'm Italian. There you go. It's got pasta in it and small meatballs. You can't beat that. I love all that stuff when you put it together. So Italian wedding soup is such a great dish. It's so much fun to make because there's a lot of little components that we've got to put together. And it's something that, when done properly, everybody loves. So let's jump right into what's going on. And as you can see, I've got a lot of stuff kind of laid out here. I've already taken the liberty, hope you don't mind, of doing some chopping and prepping some things because it does take a few minutes. But once you get everything in the pot, you've got nothing else to do but wait. The prep at the beginning takes a few minutes, but it's not a lot. I took spinach and loosely chopped it up. I chopped up some celery and onions and carrots. And I've got our pasta that we're going to use and our meat for the meatballs. Today we're going to be making this with chicken. Been watching the videos, you know that I'm a big fan of chicken. I really like the lean protein and I try to steer that way. You can make this soup with any sort of protein meat that you would like. If you'd rather use beef, go right ahead. Turkey, pork, they all work well together. Because you're going to be mixing, we're going to be blending. I've got ground chicken breast and I've also got sweet Italian chicken sausage. If you wanted to do this with a different protein, you would blend the meat with the sausage. All those flavors come together, really tenderizes beautifully because of the slight fat content. Depending on the protein that you use, it makes for a really nice finish. So what I've done, I took the ground chicken breast and put it in here, and I also put some of the sausage. But what I wanted to show you was you take your sausage link and you want to remove the casing. And if you haven't done that before, it's very easy. Just cut the tip off, and then you can just go ahead and peel back the casing of the sausage, and it just comes right off. It's that simple. And we're just breaking it up in here. And this is what we're going to use to make our meatballs. So now this is the first step in what we're doing is we're going to make some meatballs together. And essentially what Italian wedding soup is, small meatballs, a pasta of your choice. I'm using, it's always little pasta. You can use orzo, works really well. I've got ditalini pasta, the little tiny pellets. I like these because, quite frankly, they take a little longer to cook. This takes 11 to 12 minutes to cook al dente. So I like that it takes longer because it allows more time for everything to cook together. Orzo doesn't take as long, but it's also a fabulous pasta to put in here. And acini di pepe is the traditional pasta that goes in an Italian wedding soup. It's the little tiny pellets, pasta pellets that you can also get. Like I said, pick the one that you want. I like this one because I like the fact that it takes a little longer. But we take the pasta with the veggies, with these small meatballs, and cook it in chicken stock and let it boil and simmer for 12-15 minutes. Makes a fantastic soup. So the first step in all of this, once you've prepped your veggies, is to make your meatballs. And all we need to do that is some plain breadcrumbs, 1/4 cup, grated Parmesan cheese, 1/2 cup, and your seasonings. Now I've taken them and put them together, but I did a teaspoon of each of oregano, sage, and basil. A teaspoon of each. And dump all that in there. And some egg. Up to you. You want to use the whole egg? Go right ahead. Get 1 large egg and dump the whole thing in there. If you watch a lot of my stuff, I use egg white as often as possible and try to avoid the yolk at all costs. It's just a personal preference. It's me and a cholesterol thing. I don't know. Don't ask me. I have no idea. I'm sure my mom is responsible for a lot of that worry, but hey. I got some egg white in here. I put a couple of them. And I'm going to mix all this together, but I'm going to do it with my hands. For one reason. I want to keep these as light and fluffy as possible. And you mix everything together with a spatula, you run the risk of over mixing. So I'm just going to use my hands. And if you noticed, I wet them. Always wet your hands before dealing with raw protein, especially things like raw chicken and raw turkey, because they're really lean and they stick. They will stick to you a lot. And I want to reduce the amount of stick. So I'm going to go ahead and do this with wet hands. And all I'm doing is folding it over and mushing it together. And I'm not pushing hard because I don't want them to get really, really dense. When you have all that cheese and breadcrumb, if you mush all this together too much and you push too hard, you'll get nice little meatballs, but they're really, really dense and hard, and they're like bricks or pellets or whatever you want to call it. But you don't want them hard like that. You want them light and fluffy. So that's it. I just mixed it together. And now I'm going to make little meatballs out of this. Wet my hands just a little more. And let me tell you what we're after. We're after about 25 meatballs. So if you've got 8 ounces of chicken sausage or beef sausage or whatever, and 8 ounces of ground meat, you've got 1 pound. So with 1 pound, I want to get about 25 meatballs. And if I don't get that many, that means I've made them too big. And well, that means that we just have meatballs that are too big. But I'm going to try not to. But we're going to make 25 of these and keep them as small as we can. And while I'm doing this, you can check out the description below, because I'll list everything out for you in detail below so you can see step by step and everything that you're going to need for these. You'll also find the subscribe button there. So go ahead and click that real quick if you haven't done so. Subscribe to this channel because cooking like this is fun. It's very addictive. I have to warn you ahead of time. So please be careful when doing this because you will get addicted to it. But hey, that's fun. So click that subscribe button, maybe give the video a thumbs up. That would be also greatly appreciated. Let's get these meatballs made, huh? We move on to something that's a little bit more fun. Okay. Ooh. See that? That guy, too big. See this? This is good. This is too big. We don't want that big. Some of that goes off. Make a few more of these here. Just about done with these. And then we move on to the next step. Let's see how we did. 2, 4. Okay, so with 1 pound of meat, half and half, sausage and ground meat, got 29 little meatballs. Perfect. I don't think I showed you this before, but use a tablespoon. It helps for measuring. I took a tablespoon and just would do scoops. That gives me the perfect little size. And now we've got our meatballs, and we can start putting all this together and make a fantastic soup. Come on. All right, so now, first things first, we need a nice big pot. Got a big Dutch oven pot here. Get some olive oil in there, maybe a tablespoon or 2. And then I found a nice big saute pan and put a couple of tablespoons of olive oil in there. This saute pan is not required. Don't have to do this step. I do it because I like the flavor that this is going to produce, but not everybody does this when they make this Italian wedding soup. But you'll see. So we'll let that oil get hot. I'm going to put some garlic over here. Garlic and olive oil. Oh, wow, you hear that? And I'm going to dump in our veggies. Carrots, onions, celery, all just loosely chopped up. 1 large white onion, 3 celery stalks and 3 large carrots, just chopped up. And I got the garlic and the olive oil. And let that get started. While that's getting started, this oil is hot. I am going to brown these meatballs. Not going to cook them all the way, just brown both sides. You don't have to do this. A lot of people just take the meatballs and put them directly in the pot when it's boiling and let them cook that way. I like the flavor that you get, the crispy texture on the outside, but also the flavor of the brown meat. I think it adds something to the soup. But again, this is a personal preference. You don't have to do this step. You can skip it. I don't recommend it. I recommend doing this. They come out so good. All I'm going to do is brown the sides, and then I'm going to put them in the pot. There, as those start to brown, let's focus over here and let this start to cook a little bit. Soften up the texture of the vegetables. Watch the color of the celery start to lighten a little bit from that bright, vibrant green to more of a subtle tone, and the onion starts to get some translucency to it. It means it's cooking. A few dashes of salt and pepper. Don't need too much. Just a couple. Okay, 3. Is a couple 3 or is a few 3? I don't know. But some salt and pepper, nonetheless. And just let this start to cook a little bit. And this is actually an important step. You want to let the veggies cook some before you add the stock and then bring that to a boil, because a boiled vegetable has a different flavor, different texture than a sauteed veggie. Everything changes when you let it cook a little bit in its own natural producing juice and liquid. Let that go for a moment. And all I'm going to do with these meatballs is move them around because we're just browning. We've got one side of all these browned, which means we're going to move them over in just a moment. These veggies are cooking beautifully. Oh, I love how this looks. Yes. Take a look at these colors here. See how nice and brown those look? Just browning the sides, that's all. Has a great flavor when it's nice and browned like that. Smells fantastic. Meanwhile, these veggies are going. Just about ready for us to add some more stuff. So now, here's what we're doing. Now that these are nice and brown, and like I said, that's all I wanted was to brown the exterior. Turn those off. And the first thing I'm going to do is let's go ahead and put them in here with the veggies. Does it matter the order in which these steps are taking? You can add the liquid first and add the meatballs second. It really doesn't matter. But I want to get all of these in here. Oh yeah, nice and brown on both sides. See that? Oh, so great. I love the way this smells. So many, these fantastic aromatic flavors and smells. Oh, there we go. So we get all the meatballs in there. And now the next thing we need to add, chicken stock. And you always shake it up. Always, always, always. The really good stuff in the chicken stock, especially if you don't make it yourself, which, sorry, didn't do that today. All the good stuff is at the bottom. But we're going to add 8 cups of chicken stock. There we go. And we are going to get that up to a boil. Got it on a nice medium-high heat. Cover it, and that's it. So we've got the veggies, carrots, onions, celery. We added some garlic. If you're doing fresh cloves of garlic, that's fantastic, depending on the size, anywhere from 2 to 3 cloves. If you've got minced or chopped garlic already in a jar, nothing wrong with that either. 1.5 teaspoons. It's really all you need with that olive oil. And then we put the meatballs in after we browned them and added our chicken stock. I'm going to bring this up to a boil. When it comes up to a boil, that's when we're going to add our spinach and our noodles. And in the 10-12 minutes it's going to take for those noodles to get a nice al dente texture to them, the meatballs will finish cooking at a low boil. And that's it. I love this stuff. Whoa, do you see that? And do you hear that? How amazing does that look and sound? We've got a hearty boil going. So we'll turn this down to medium low. And we are going to pour in our pasta. 1 pound of pasta. Give that a quick stir. I mean, wow, how amazing does that look? It smells so good. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on just for a moment or so because I want to make sure that that boil comes right back up. And as soon as I know that we're boiling, we've got a good hearty boil, I can take the top off and just let it cook uncovered for the next 10-12 minutes, as long as it takes for the noodles to cook. And when that's done, we're basically finished. Only got one more thing to add, and I want to make sure that that boil is nice and hearty before I throw in the spinach. When you cook spinach like this, obviously it wilts, so it cooks down. It cooks down rather fast, and it's going to absorb all these flavors, but let's make sure it's nice and hot in that pot before we do that. Oh yeah, we've got a good boil. We've got our, turn the heat down to like a medium low. The last thing to add is our chopped spinach. Now I just took, this is just loosely chopped. There's nothing special about that at all. For a good measurement, I'd say about 5 ounces. 5 ounces of chopped spinach. Mix that in there. And let this go for a few minutes. Spinach will also go ahead and change the flavor slightly. When you cook spinach, it starts to get a little bit of a bitter taste to it. So I'm going to keep an eye on that as it's cooking for a little while and make sure that all these flavors balance. Oh, it's beautiful. There we go. A few more minutes and we will be done. Done. We did it. The number one way to tell whether or not this meal is done is the texture and consistency of your noodles. Not worried about the meatballs. If you want to check, by all means, pull one out, cut it open, just to make sure that it is gray all the way through. If you're looking for a temperature, at least 165 degrees. But ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, we browned them to start and then put them in this pot. They spent 10-11 minutes coming up to a boil and then 12 minutes boiling with everything else. Those meatballs are cooked. This meal is done. Wow, I'm so excited. And the cool thing about these, all these bright, vibrant colors, just put it in a white bowl and top it off with some cheese. The presentation, it speaks for itself. Oh, it is so phenomenal. Look at this. Try to keep everything towards the middle. some of the liquid. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. And all we need to do to top this off is some freshly shaved. You don't want grated, you don't want shredded, you want shaved Parmesan cheese for that look, that aesthetic. It's just beautiful. It doesn't deteriorate and melt all over the place. It sits up high. Some shaved fresh Parmesan and a little bit of freshly chopped parsley. Oh, fantastic. Look how beautiful that came out. See all those colors? And folks, that's it. This meal is done. It looks beautiful. All it needs, I need a nice loaf of bread, like a nice Italian loaf of bread or French bread. If you're in New Orleans watching this, well, all the bread is fantastic. But a nice loaf of French bread in New Orleans, so good. But I really like and have come to like the Italian bread. It's nice and soft. Oh, that will be so good with this. I cannot wait. A couple of things for you folks to remember. While this is cooking, while it's boiling, make sure you're tasting throughout. I'm really not tasting the noodles because I know that they're not going to be done for at least 10 minutes, depending on the type of noodle you get. But I want to taste the flavor. I want to make sure that it's not too salty. I want to make sure that it's salty enough. If, it won't happen, but if you start to get kind of a bitter flavor from the spinach, a couple of pinches of just regular white sugar will take that away. It's not going to happen because of the chicken stock, but if it did, you throw some sugar in there and that bitterness is gone. But really taste this while it's boiling to make sure you've got your flavors right. Depending on the chicken stock that you use, may not have enough salt in it, might have too much, so just pay attention. But otherwise, folks, that's it. Please make this. It's so good. You're going to love it. I really can't wait to hear how the process goes. If you enjoy the flavors, give the video a thumbs up and share it with everyone you know. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. See you in a few days, folks. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, wow. Oh, that's good.